Hi, this is Tim Kelley with another in our ongoing series of videos about the new paradigm of business. Now, these next few videos are very important. This is where we're starting to explore some of the alternatives to using greed as a form of fuel to drive our system of business and the economy. As you may recall from prior videos, we explored some of the research that shows that greed, the desire for money, is a relatively weak motivator, that its effects are generally short-term, and that it can't be used to incent problem-solving, relationship skills, design work, and other more advanced skills. It can really only be used to get people to do very simple tasks faster for a short period of time. So we built a system that relies on greed as its primary form of fuel, and the very high levels of disengagement enjoyed by most large corporations are really a result of that choice. So as we asked in future videos, the question becomes, if we're not going to use greed as the primary or the sole source of motivation and fuel to drive our businesses and our economy, then what becomes the new motivator? What becomes the new fuel that's going to drive the system? So these next three videos are going to be about that. So this video really brings up a topic which is near and dear to my heart, which is the purpose-driven company, the purpose-driven company. This is where we go right to the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to the self-actualization need, and have the company become a source of fulfillment for the individual employee, equivalent to what we would normally think of as going to church, or contributing to a nonprofit, or some other activity that's designed to make me a better person and the world a better place. So we're going to use a sense of higher purpose to engage the employees in wanting to come to work, desiring to come to work, because they know that coming to work and doing their jobs every day is making the world a better place. Now, let's talk about how this works. Well, the reason why this is necessary is because most employees don't leap out of bed in the morning eager to create value for shareholders. And I like to share this with CEOs because a really kind of old paradigm view of the purpose of business is to generate profit and create value for shareholders. The problem with those as a purpose is they're not motivating to the average employee. Therefore, we in effect wind up bribing employees to do the work that we want them to do. And this is a very, very inefficient process because it takes a lot of bribing to get a very low level of motivation. And in fact, if you do a lot of bribing, it actually decreases performance rather than increases it. But back to purpose. So when I speak to audiences of CEOs, they'll often say to me, "But Tim, my company has a mission. Isn't that what you mean?" And yes, it is what I mean. A company mission is a form of purpose, and depending on the mission, that may be exactly what I'm talking about. Here's the problem, though, which is that most company missions are not exciting. They're not motivating, and they don't get anybody except maybe one or two or three people who created them, and often not even them, excited about them. So when I do higher purpose work with companies, the standard I like to use is when we have all the people who participated read the purpose out loud. When we're done, somebody starts crying. Now, that's a very high standard, and most company missions are quickly forgotten and would not pass that test. Why? Well, I kind of slipped in the word higher purpose a minute ago. The reason is that the missions are really overblown goals of some sort. For example, we want to be the leader in the men's grooming market, or we want to make N million by 20 whatever. So what we're really talking about in those situations is some sort of tactical goal which is raised to the level of a purpose, what some people would call a BHAG, a big hairy ass goal. And that's really not that motivating either. So what is motivating? What is motivating is a sense that the company's business, the thing it does every day, makes the world a better place in some substantial and meaningful way, so that the people who come to work get a sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in the same way that they would if they went and built a house for Habitat for Humanity. By coming to work every day, they get the feeling that they have actually done a really good turn and made the world a better place. Now, this form of motivation is traditionally reserved for nonprofits. And so in for-profit corporations, we pay actually much more money for the same task and the same skills that nonprofits do. Why? People are competing for those roles. I've heard friends in nonprofits say they advertised a position and had hundreds of people, sometimes thousands of people, applying, competing for one underpaid position in a nonprofit because they get to have the sensation of making the world a better place by working there. So when I speak to audiences of CEOs, I love to ask them, why do you want to leave all the people who are dying to work for not much money and sometimes none to the nonprofits and instead spend huge amounts of money bribing disengaged employees to try to get motivation out of them? That's what happens when we separate purpose from the act of making money. And in fact, there's a huge advantage to being a for-profit company with a mission, which is that the mission is self-funding. The profits that the company creates continues to grow the company's ability to manifest its mission, and it doesn't have to keep asking for handouts and is constantly starved for resources the way a nonprofit is. So it's a total win-win if we do it this way. Okay, so I want to bust up one other little thought here, which is a lot of people say, well, we give our employees 1 day off per quarter to go volunteer at the charity of their choice or of our selection. Or we give 10% of our profits to the charity of our choice. Now those are good things. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for that. But that is a very different thing than making the business of the company itself an act of higher purpose. Because in that model, I'm still separating. Over here, we're generating a profit, doing something that is morally neutral, and then we're taking some fraction of that profit and donating it over here to do good, as opposed to generating the profit through some activity that is itself doing good. This is in fact the heart of what we've come to call social entrepreneurship. And during the interview series that's coming up, you'll see some very interesting interviews from some people who really understand social entrepreneurship and can make it very clear to you. So social entrepreneurship can be for-profit, can be non-profit, but what we're trying to do in social entrepreneurship is make the act of making money something that also makes the world a better place. And by joining those two together, instead of keeping them separate as they traditionally are, the impact of the social entrepreneurship is greatly enhanced. And there's a whole host of small companies and medium-sized companies that are growing up that are doing that. In fact, the younger generation who's now entering the workforce takes as a matter of course, many of them, that they will both be paid well for their work and that their work will make the world a better place. And they're not really interested in working somewhere just for the money, as previous generations sometimes were. Now, it's not just small companies that are doing this. If you look at some really big, what we think of as old guard, stodgy companies like Procter & Gamble and Walt Disney, they have actually stuck to their company purposes through thick and thin over very long periods of time, and will say that their sustained success is due in large part to staying true to their purpose. In fact, you can go on YouTube and look up videos of Procter & Gamble executives going on and on and on about the critical importance of purpose to a company, the critical importance of purpose to its marketing, and how important it is to have purpose-driven employees who understand their own individual purpose in life. This is Procter & Gamble. This is like a 170-year-old company that makes soap and detergent and stuff like that. So this does not have to be some weird new age thing. There are very old companies that swear by this principle. And most of the new paradigm techniques that are out there, a lot of the more new paradigm burgeoning structures and methodologies, like the collaborative operating system and holacracy, conscious capitalism, the tribal leadership, and you'll hear from people who are skilled in some of these different processes and programs. All of these systems say that a company must have a higher purpose in order to use that system successfully. Good. So in future of these videos, we're first going to go over some more alternatives to greed as potential sources of motivation other than a sense of higher purpose. And then later, when we get into the interview series, you'll hear from thought leaders and business leaders who have successfully used the purpose strategy and other strategies to motivate their employees. Good, looking forward to it.